Welcome to a new video in my home automation series, and I've given this video a clickbait title as an ultimate guide to how to use Sonoff bulbs. And I think it makes sense to make this video because I think there is a lot of potential in these Wi-Fi bulbs, but it might not be obvious how you can use them in different scenarios. So instead of doing a review, which I've already done for both of this B02 bulb and this filament B02 bulb, I'm going to cover a couple of automation scenarios that I thought that could be useful. And of course, I can't really think about all the different scenarios. So if you have any suggestions, just leave them down in the comment section below. And I might just, create another one, which is going to be the advanced guide to the Sonoff bulbs in a future video. So I think the scenarios that I'm going to cover, first of all, I'm going to talk about voice control. And this could be very straightforward, but I think it worth to mention because these bulbs, they don't have a control surface. So ideally, okay, you can use your phone to turn them on and off. Of course, you want to also probably link them to a switch, which I'm going to cover later. But probably the easiest one, if you have some sort of voice assistant at your home, then you can control by voice command. And there are quite a few different voice commands that you can use for these devices. And then I'm going to talk about how you can pair these devices with smart switches. So for example, I have this old Sonoff Touch here, or one of the T1s, but they work the same way regardless which one I pick. So I'm going to use this switch to control these light bulbs. And I'm also going to talk about grouping. So again, if you have multiple of these, you can probably group them together and then control them together at the same time. And then I start going into the various options, how you can use, for example, the door sensor to control this device, or the motion sensor to activate the lights. And since I covered the advanced plan with Sonoff, I think I'm going to go through a couple of things that you can only do in IFTTT. So that could be the basis of your decision whether you want to upgrade your Sonoff account to an advanced account, or if it makes sense for you to do that. Anyway, if you don't know what that is, I've done a separate video on that as well. So let's talk about the voice assistants first, and I think I'm going to use my phone for that demonstration. I've already done the pairing of my eWeLink account to my Google Home account. In the Google Home app, you can just press the plus button and then you select set up a new device, and you select the second option, works with Google. And here you can see that I have a few services that are already linked to Google. One of them is the Smart wifi. And that's what you have to find in the list of services here. And once you provide your user ID and the password that you are using in eWeLink, your device will get automatically synced up to your home app. And probably somewhere in this big list, we can see the different light bulbs that I'm using. I have just so many at the moment. And here it is. And of course, you can control it from here as well. So this is not even voice control. But if you like this app better than the eWeLink app, you can just do the synchronization and you can just use the Google Home app to control your devices. And as you can see, it works great. You can change the color as well. I mean, you have some preset colors, but for the most typical scenario, I think that's going to be enough. So I'm changing the color temperature, and probably you can see that the color temperature of the bulb changes as well. I mean, the camera is set to auto everything, so it might not come out perfectly, but it definitely works. The Google says it can't reach Google at the moment, but I think actually there is nothing wrong with Google. But I've noticed that if I have the screen recording on my mobile phone, then no other application can have access to the microphone, and I think that's the problem. But basically you have keywords you can ask the device. For example, you can ask Google, or it works the same way as Alexa as well, to turn B02 bulb on. You can say increase the brightness by 20%, or turn the light on at 50%, or set the color temperature to warm. So there are a couple of keywords for a color temperature. So warm, daylight, cool light, and I'm probably going to overlay the other options here on the screen as well. So this is the voice control that you can do with Google Home or Alexa, or as you can see, you can do it on the Home app. So that's cool. The next example is going to be how to use it with actual smart switches. So for that, I think I'm going to use the Sonoff Touch. But as I said, if you have a T1 or one of the TX series, it's going to work exactly the same. I mean, at the moment, there is an actual physical bulb connected to the output of the Touch, but let's just assume that this bulb doesn't exist. So even though there is a switch in the touch and all of the smart switches that can control a light, we are not going to use it. So we are just going to use it as a switch. And we are going to set up some automation so that smart switch is going to control the bulbs. So for that, I need to create two scenes. So the trigger is the smart device, and I just need to find the touch. It's probably further down. Yeah, so if the touch is turned on, then smart device and the B2 bulb should also turn on. Okay, that's one scene. So I'm just going to make it touch and bulb 1, because we also need to create another scene. So if trigger smart device touch is off, then smart device and the B2 bulb is off as well. And I'm just going to name it touch and bulb 2. You can probably find better names for this. So if I turn these touch on, the bulb turns on as well. And if you turn it off, then the bulb turns off as well. So fairly simple. And of course, if I go back to any of these automations, you can see that there is still a plus button here, so you can add multiple devices. So if you want this touch or this switch to control multiple light bulbs, you can do that. That's not a problem at all. Just keep in mind that because this is a scene, the scenes are executed in the cloud. So if your internet connection is done, this automation is not going to work. So the touch is not going to control your light bulbs, unfortunately. And actually, I can also add a twist to this automation. What happens if you want this light to automatically turn off after you turn it on? Unfortunately, there is no option to do inching on the bulb, or at least not at the moment. But I think what I can do is I open the automation which turns the light bulb on, and I can add a delay here. So I'm going to pick a very short delay, let's just 5 seconds, and then another action, smart device, bulb, off. And I save this one. So now what's going to happen is I turn this one on, so the logic runs, and after 5 seconds, it turns the bulb off as well. I mean, what I didn't do is I didn't turn the touch off. I think I should do that as well, because if I press the button again, then nothing is happening, because actually I'm turning it off now. But I can just easily add a new action here. So I turn the touch off as well. So next time when you touch it, it turns the lights on. So this could be a simple delay application. So every touch of the the smart switch is going to turn the lights on, and then after a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes, it will automatically turn off. And actually, just as I was doing the recording, I realized that I was incorrect, because if you go for Zigbee devices, there is a Zigbee button. So you can have a Zigbee button which is not connected to a physical relay, but you can still use this in automation in order to control lights. And one advantage of this Zigbee button, it doesn't require mains voltage, so you can just basically stick it anywhere you want and it's going to work as a smart switch. Unfortunately, it has a drawback which I've already mentioned when I did the review video of this product, and we are going to see that when I go into the scenes. So I can create a new scene by clicking plus and add, and then smart device and Zigbee button. And as you can see, you can even pick whether you want to click, the double click, or the long press action. So technically you can use one single switch to operate 3 different devices depending on how you click it. So let's just pick the basic one, the clicked one. So I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to use smart device, and let's do the filament again. And as you can see, you have an option to turn the device either on and off, but we only have one action from this button when you press. So you can't tell the bulb to either turn on if it's off or turn off if it's on. You can only set one state, one definite state. You have a couple of options. You can say that, okay, if I press it, the light turns on. If I double click it, it turns off. But I don't think it's really intuitive. So I think with the Zigbee button, the better option is that you turn the light on and again use a delay to turn the light automatically off. So it works one way. So the device is going to turn itself off, and it's not going to be the button again which turns the device off. So that's going to be the name of the scene. And of course, if I press it, then the light comes on, and then it automatically goes off as well. And of course I can do it as many times as I want. So I think you can see the difference between the regular touch or T1 and also the Zigbee button. This could be ideal for, like landing lights or also porch lights, where you only want the light to be on for a short period of time again, so you don't really have to switch it off. So for these, the Zigbee button is great. And of course, you can have multiple of these Zigbee buttons and also the touches to control the same one. You just have to create one scene for each of them. So I think that's also great. So if you have bulbs, let's say in your let's say communal hallway, and you have a couple of these buttons dotted around, you just create an automation for all of them. If the button is pressed, then turn on the lights, and after 10 minutes, turn them off. And you can have a simple automation just like that, and you don't have to run wires and then, two-way and three-way switching and some, complicated control box or something. The next option is what I can do is, in case I want to use multiple of these lamps. So let's say I have a chandelier which has 6 light bulb connection, and I'm buying 6 of these Wi-Fi bulbs, but I don't want to switch them on individually. I want to do them together. So I'm going to go in one of my light bulb settings. I go into 3 dots and the settings, and I'm going to create a group. So I'm going to group the bulb and the other filament bulbs together. So what's going to happen now, or living room lights, that's going to be the name. So I have a new group that I've created, and we just have to wait until it's saved. Okay. And now I have a new device, which is a group device. You can see the icon there. So if I turn this one on, both of them turn on. And if I turn it off, both of them turns off. And if I go into the device details, you can see that you have the brightness control as well. So you can control the brightness, and you can also control the color temperature for all of your bulbs together. And you also have access to the scenes. You don't have access to some of the other features, for example, the schedules and the timers. But, well, you have to live with that. And there is one more thing about this group. So as you can see, again, it appears as a new device and it has a group type. But in the automation, you can't use these groups. So if you want to create scenes, you still have to address all your different devices individually. So for example, if I use the touch to turn things on and off, as you can see, it still operates these bulbs. So even though they are grouped, the group feature is only something that you have access to in the app, in the device list. It's not something which also influences the scenes. But again, you can just quickly go into the scenes and you can just add the other filament. So then this touch is going to control both of them. So it's not a big issue. You just have to be aware of that. The next scenario is going to be sensors, and for that I'm going to use my Zigbee door and open sensor. You can use the DV2 as well. It doesn't have to be Zigbee, but I have this one with me already. So I'm going to create new scenes. So what I want to do, if this door sensor is opened, so let's say if I open the door, I want these lights to automatically come on. So it's going to be fairly easy. I create a new automation. The trigger is smart device Zigbee door, and if it's on, then I want to operate my, let's say it's going to be the filament bulb, and that should be on as well. Okay, I'm just going to give a simple name like bulb on. And before I test it, let me turn it off. Okay, so if I open the sensor, the light comes on. And nothing happens when I close the sensor, but if I create an automation, let's say smart device, Zigbee door, off. It probably should say close. Then smart device filament is off as well. And so that would be bulb off. Door closed or something like that. So if I place the magnet back, then the light goes away. Ooh, simple. And of course we can use the delay option here as well. So let's say this is your front door where the door sensor is, and this is your porch light. So when you open the door, you want these lights to automatically come on. So I'm going to modify the bulb on event. So if the Zigbee door sensor is open, then I'm going to turn the light on, and I'm just going to use the same delay example that I used previously. I'm just going to set a very short delay, so 5 seconds, and then smart device again, filament and off. And if I save it, I save with the same name. Then if I remove the sensor or the magnet, then the light comes on, and after 5 seconds, it will automatically turn off. And just remember that you also have this effective period. So for example, if this is your porch light, then you can just disable at 24 hours, and you can just set something like, I don't know, from 5 p.m. to sort of like, I don't know, 7 a.m. So then this automation is going to turn on your porch light when you are leaving the home in the evening. And by the way, if I just put the sensor back, nothing is going to happen because the light is already turned off. The next example is going to be the motion sensor example. Again, I'm using a Zigbee motion sensor for that. And unfortunately, I don't think I would be able to fully show you this because, I've already triggered the motion sensor, and there is a re-trigger delay for these motion sensors. So if they, detect motion once, it needs probably around half a minute or a minute for it to trigger again. This is probably to consume battery power. So if you are planning to use this one, just keep in mind that it might not work exactly the same way that you want it. So for that reason, I think for this motion sensor example, I'm going to use the delay mode already. So I just need to create a scene. So a new scene, and the trigger is going to be smart device and the Zigbee motion sensor. And when its motion is detected, then let's say I'm going to use the other light bulb, turn the light bulb on, and then just wait for, let's say, I don't know, 15 minutes. Again, so it could be like a porch light or some sort of exterior light which should automatically come on when you move into the view. And after that, you want to switch off the device. So again, I'm selecting the same device and switch it off. And I think if you set up a scene like this one, then if the delay is something like 5 minutes, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, then the re-trigger delay of the motion sensor is not going to cause any issues. Also keep in mind that if there are multiple motions detected within this 15-minute period, it will not reset the counter. So once the scene has started, it will just carry on. So if I would save this one, then let's say motion porch light. I hope I spelled it right. So I save it. Oh, actually it works. So it detected my motion now. And as you can see, as soon as I save the automation, the light already came on. And with this, we come to the IFTTT part, and I think we are going to use a couple of examples here. I'm trying to use examples that are already created by someone, so you don't have to use it as a custom applet, from which you only have 3 in the standard IFTTT plan. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I've talked about this a little bit more detailed in my Sonoff advanced plan video, where I touched the impact on IFTTT as well. So I'm going to click on explore, and I'm just going to click on, and I'm going to search with eWeLink, because that's where or most of the eWeLink examples are. And there are a couple of different examples that you can use here. I just need to find the one which actually works for us. But somebody has already created examples where you can switch lights on based on location. So for example, turn your eWeLink one channel switch on and off between when entering an area in between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. So this is actually an automation which not only contains a location example, but it also contains a time restriction. So if I enable this, first of all, you have to provide the address where you are at the moment, and then you can select the device that you want to turn on. So, well, the thing with this one is this example is created for one channel switch. So that would be like a basic or a touch. And for some reason, that doesn't include the bulb. So you can use it for a couple of examples, but actually it's not exactly our example. So let's see what it looks like if you want to create this yourself. And I want to create, so if this, so that's my location, dismiss, bloody upgrade. So location. So you select when you want this to trigger. So when you enter an area, so for example, when you enter in the area around your home, this is not actually my address. And then what should happen, and you find eWeLink. And I should be able to type eWeLink Smart Home. And then we look for the turn on and off light. And here we just have to wait. And actually we do have a few. So the LED strip is considered as a light as well. And of course there used to be the first LED bulb, the B1, which is also listed here. So let's say it's going to be the filament, and then you select on, and then you enable this. So now when you enter this area with your phone, it's going to create an IFTTT trigger, and that's going to turn your light bulb on. So I had to create this myself, but if you look around in the existing ones, you might actually find one which works for you. So it doesn't come off your limit of free custom applets in your IFTTT, unless you upgrade to Pro. As you can see, it says created by me, 2 or 3. So I had none, now I created 1, so I have only 2 more left. The next example is how to use these light bulbs, and especially how to use the brightness control of these light bulbs to create some sort of wake up light. And I think that's going to be fairly easy as well with if this and that, because here we can set the brightness of a lamp, and we can't do it in the scenes in the eWeLink app, unfortunately. So if this and that, and here you can select, well, most probably you want to say time. So let's say if it's date and time, and if it's every day at, so let's say every day at, I don't know, 6 a.m. You want to, and again, you go to eWeLink, and we are going to use the set brightness for light. And let's say I'm going to use the filament, and we can set the brightness to, I don't know, maybe set at 13%. So, at 6 a.m. it will turn on, but it's going to turn on at a very low light. And then you can create another applet. Let's say after 10 minutes, it goes up to 15%, and after 20 minutes, it goes up to full brightness. So in case you have your pillows on your head, more probably at 15%, you will most probably going to wake up. So this is one way where you can control the brightness, but unfortunately you have to use IFTTT for that at the moment. And probably last but not least, I want to create another IFTTT example. I read somewhere that the point of these color changing light bulbs are that when you are doing specific tasks, and especially in the specific periods of the day, it actually matters what sort of color temperature surrounds you. So let's say in the evening time, when a couple of hours before you go to bed, if your lights around you are more like warmer light, that it helps you to go to sleep more easily, as opposed to if you have a really cool white light that keeps you awake, because your body thinks that it's still in the middle of the day. So it could be a little bit more difficult to go to sleep or fall asleep. So I think what we can use IFTTT for is we can create, again, time dependent applets to control or to set the brightness on our lights. So let's say at specific time of the day, so maybe at 5 p.m. I can start changing the color temperature of my light bulbs. And I mean, I can set up these automations, but I won't be able to film the whole day how this actually changes. So I think you just have to believe me that it actually works. And I just have to find it. Yeah, so set color temperature for the light. And again, here I have a couple of lights. I mean, most probably it would be better for the B2, these two bulbs, or some of the other variants of these white lights. And as you can see, you have a couple of options here. So you can go from a white to soft white or warm white. So maybe at 5 o'clock you can go to soft white, and then maybe 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock you can go to warm white. And apparently it soothes you, and apparently it helps your body to naturally fall asleep, or at least more easily fall to sleep once you eventually go to bed. So these were my ideas how you can use these bulbs, how you can use some of the basic settings, some of the scenes, and how some of the IFTTT recipes to make it really smart and suit your lifestyle and needs. I hope you find at least some of them useful and you are going to use it in your automation setup. If you have any other ideas, please leave them in the comment section below. But I think that will be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.